We have no idea if the parking that Tony purchased is pre-purchased is actually for this lot or not. Question. Why, when you're hooking up or unhooking, does it have to start raining? Whew. All right, so we're hooked up at the KOA Outer Banks and heading off to DC today. Thoughts on the Outer Banks?
One of my favorite places.
So far, mine too. I had a great time here.
This week sort of felt like a vacation.
Yeah, no, I would agree.
And I was actually feeling guilty over that. I mean...
Why were you feeling guilty? Because it felt like a vacation.
Honestly, and you know, and I'm emotional because I didn't sleep very well last night. I think I had such a lovely time, and it was the first time in a year and a half that I really, truly had a lovely, relaxing time.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah, it makes absolute sense. No, that's okay. You know, part of this is experiencing those emotions too.
Yeah.
All right.
Even at the beach yesterday, when we put the umbrella up, you know, that was one of her birthday gifts to me, was that I wanted a beach umbrella. She's like, well, Mom, why do you want a beach umbrella? I go, I just wanted a beach umbrella. And she got me this beautiful rainbow colored beach umbrella because that's the way Danielle rolled, you know. So it's, you know, you're right. And again, part of it is because I didn't sleep well last night because he put something in my head.
Hold on, I gotta get the tears out of my eyes too.
He put something in my head last night. So the people that were camping next to us are not seasoned campers. So I had this nightmare last night that literally drove me out of bed. I dreamt we were in bed, we were in the RV, we were in this spot, and I dreamt I could smell propane. And so I woke up and I could smell propane, and I had the window open and I could see the neighbor next to us. And because he wasn't a seasoned camper, I saw it in my dream. His door opened, he comes out, he's got a cigarette in his mouth, and he goes to light it, and all I could do was smell propane and I jumped out of bed, and I literally jumped out of bed.
This is how you know you're a filmmaker, because she told me how she saw it was the door came open and then everything went into slow motion.
Slow-mo, and he
brought the cigarette up and the lighter up to light it.
Yeah, it was a bad nightmare.
All right, so today is off to Washington, D.C. Update on the trailer brake thing. I'm looking at it right now on the dash, and it says check trailer wiring, even though we're plugged in. So I have an appointment on Monday at Chevy dealer number 2.
How Chevy dealer tour of America?
It pretty much, I think it's going to be. We'll figure something out. But we have to solve this problem because it's becoming to a point where I'm dreading drive days because I know that trailer brake is going to drive me nuts. So we need to fix this problem. All right, that's enough yammering. You ready to get on the road?
Yeah.
Gracie, you ready to go? You ready to go? Well, we're not going to adventure today. We're going to go travel. You ready?
She likes travel.
You ready for a travel day? All right, let's go.
Tell him. Let's go.
Go to DC, they said. It'd be fun, they said. They didn't tell us about the traffic. All right, so we're on the 495 Beltway in DC, and we are just not moving at all. In the last 40 minutes, how far do you think we've gone?
Quarter of a mile.
Quarter of a mile, maybe?
Eighth of a mile.
Maybe.
Cars are now driving by.
Cars are now on the emergency lane. I'm afraid that the freeway, something may have happened and they're routing everybody off the freeway.
Usually I get in traffic and I'm panicking. What if I'm stuck here for the rest of the night? We're just gonna pull over.
Is what it is.
I have a bathroom.
I have a house behind me.
I have bears.
I do have bears. We'll check back in with you in a bit.
We're in a dip.
Hashtag dip. All right, well, we made it to Cherry Hill Campground. Tony's checking us in right now. Well, apparently Washington, D.C. welcomed us in the standard way, I guess. It took us about 2 hours to go 2 miles. But we were supposed to be here at a little after 4, and it is now 7:20. Ugh, what a drive. And we still have to set up. All right, so we got Gracie dropped off at Camp Bow Wow. Tony is currently looking for parking, to pre-purchase parking down by the Smithsonian Air and Space Museum, because that's where we're going today. Yay! I've wanted to go to this museum since I was a kid. So today I'm going to be a kid and just hang out at the museum. I also like this about big cities. We dropped Gracie off today, and the people in there were so friendly. And what is the inmate's name? She didn't really have a German accent, but that's how I was hearing it in my head. All right, Tony Town, did you get us parking? She's busy. I'm going to let her stay busy. We'll see you at the Air and Space Museum.
Yeah, I got us parking.
Oh, you did?
Right by the Aerospace Museum.
Yay!
You could pre-buy parking.
This is why you marry a producer. All right, we'll see you at the Air and Space Museum. All right, we made it to the catacombs of parking. We have no idea if the parking that Tony purchased pre-purchased is actually for this lot or not. We have no idea. All I can say is I'm so glad we did not bring the truck into this parking structure. It would have been like when we were in Chicago last year, and that was just with the half-ton truck. This is probably the same, if not tighter, and we now have a 3/4 ton truck. All right.
This was fun, right? I mean, you had to kind of weave in and out of these pillars. And
yeah, it's pretty crazy.
It was kind of like the ride at Disneyland where the car kind of jerks around.
Like Mr. Toad's Wild Ride.
Yeah.
Well, then after, driving all of this crazy traffic to try and get down here, just give me a kiss because we're glad to be alive. We'll see you in the museum. While we had some time before our time slot at the National Air and Space Museum, we checked out the Eisenhower Memorial across the street. The memorial features statues that show different eras in the life of the 34th president. His childhood,
soldiers, sailors, and airmen of the Allied Expeditionary Force. You are about to embark upon the Great Crusade.
His Great Crusade D-Day address to the troops.
We look upon this shaken earth and we declare our firm and fixed purpose, the building of a peace with justice in a world where moral law prevails.
And his second inaugural address. We then entered the National Air and Space Museum and were blown away. While you can see replicas in other museums, in the Smithsonian, everything is the real deal. After visiting Kill Devil Hill, where the first flights took place, we now saw the actual Wright Flyer. We were amazed by the actual Apollo 11 command module that took the first humans to the moon. The first spacesuit to touch the moon with Neil Armstrong inside of it. And the boot of Eugene Cernan, the last man to touch the surface of the moon. There was also the famous vest of flight director Gene Kranz. And of course, the cobbled together CO2 scrubber from the Apollo 13 mission. We also took some time to walk the mall and see the monuments. I think they speak for themselves, so I'll let them do just that. couple of pieces of advice for those of you coming to Washington, D.C. in July.
Don't double up on your shirts.
Don't double up. That's a good one. Don't double up on your shirts. The walk in the heat is a little bit easier after a couple of cocktails.
Oh, yeah.
So I can suggest the Capitol Grill, which makes a wonderful martini. Have 2, and then walk in the heat down to whatever museum you want to see. So on our walk down here, we passed this family that was sitting on benches. They had a young child with them. I'm thinking he was about 7 or 8 years old.
I'd say 7.
7? Tony says 7 years old. And while they were just seeming to having a lovely day, that poor child had the 1,000-yard stare in his face.
He was kind of like this.
He was done. That child was done. Get that poor child ice cream. So I think the plan is to go through this museum and try and find the section on entertainment and try and find us some ruby slippers. I think that's what Tony really wants to see, is some ruby slippers. Since she was a child, she wanted to see the ruby slippers. So that's what we're going to work on. Wish us luck. We started our exploration of the National Museum of American History with an exhibit on democracy. It included the desktop where Thomas Jefferson penned the first draft of the Declaration of Independence. There was also a large collection of campaign paraphernalia from throughout the years. One of the more interesting exhibits was on campaign ads. What started out looking like a small exhibit on a wall curved up and around you as it blared out one campaign after the other, all on top of each other. It truly felt like how the political media machine inundates us during the election cycle. Another clever exhibit was on lobbying. It placed a television with images of lobbying behind a partially closed door. This was to emphasize the way lobbying works in back offices and out-of-the-view places. There was also a section of the Woolworth lunch counter where the Greensboro, North Carolina sit-ins took place. These sit-ins forced the F.W. Woolworth Company to remove its policy on racial segregation in the southern United States. And then we found the exhibit titled Entertainment Nation. It contained amazing artifacts like Fred Rogers' sweater and sneakers, iconic props from classic shows like the city signpost from MASH, and Archie and Edith Bunker's chairs. There were more modern props from Star Wars and Elizabeth Moss's costume from The Handmaid's Tale. And of course, the thing we came to see, Dorothy's ruby slippers. We're getting to deal with our first leak in the trailer. We just got through a crazy thunderstorm, and just noticed that over here by our stove, we've got a leak. So if you can see, there's a little puddle of water right here, and it's coming down the wall here. Now this leads up to the vent, which vents to the outside. So maybe it's just blew in through the vent. I don't know, we're gonna pull this off and see. I'm gonna try and pop the range hood and see if I can find out where it's coming in. All right, so we found where the leak is. It's right here in this vent. This is the side vent where the stove's right behind it. The stove stop's right behind it. And I noticed that this edge, the right edge, was popped off the camper a little bit. And so I kind of unhooked everything. There's a couple of tabs underneath that I unhooked to kind of lift this up. And when I lifted it up, I discovered that whoever put this in originally, did a little bit of percussive maintenance on it and broke this assembly. I'll show you where. So right down in here, you can see there's a big crack right there. So somebody like over tightened this screw and cracked it. And the same thing on this side. from here all the way down. I don't know how well you can see that, but it's all cracked. So we were having heavy rains, and I think what happened is the water came down here, and there's a little crack in the sealant, and I think it got down into there, got into one of these holes, and then was weeping through into the inside of the camper through here. So I'm gonna go find some lap sealant, some non-leveling lap sealant, so I can seal all around this thing and hopefully stop this water leak. So quick tip, in case you don't have a ladder, which I don't, there's always things like picnic tables that you can just slide right next to your camper to get up and over the top of stuff. All right, so the little store did have the non-leveling, non-sag lap sealant, but unfortunately, they only had it in white, not clear. So we're gonna have a little bit of white sealant up there for now, because I gotta get it sealed up so that I don't have water in my wall. All right, let's do this. All right, so Dicor in place should have sealed everything up. Now we'll get a hold of Grand Design, see if they can send us a new part, because this is just kind of a temporary fix to seal it. And then once we get the part, we'll replace the whole thing.